Before we get to the answers of all the problems with drugs in Canada, please subscribe and donate to keep us on the air, because we're coming up with answers that you won't see in the mainstream news, or most of the mainstream news. And we're talking about the fact that virtually everybody who watches this show has seen some teenager, some 20-year-old person humped over on drugs or spiraling out of control on drugs. And we hear of all the fatalities on drugs and the so-called safe drugs in Canada. Nick Kadysh is the president, CEO of a pharmaceutical company. You wrote an article and you're saying that the whole idea of safe drugs is an anomaly. It's a misnomer.
Yeah, look, I think that there's a lot of good that was intended with these harm reduction policies.
Well, yeah, people were trying to solve a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, look, I think we have to have the bravery to say we tried something and it didn't work, because I think the reality is they have not worked as intended.
Have we collectively, Canadians, done that? I mean, just a year ago, the minister was up in the House of Commons saying how many lives she saved by providing drugs to drug addicts.
Yeah, I think that Canadians have come to the conclusion that these policies have not worked. I don't know if the government has come to that conclusion yet, but
Once
I think
again,
broadly
we're leading the government.
Well, look, we have to, I was an advocate for a lot of these policies, right? I was a harm reduction advocate. I really did think that some of these policies could help and save lives. I think the reality that we've seen is that they haven't worked. And this is why I say we need to have the bravery to say that they haven't worked.
Okay, because not only do they not working for the addicts, but all of the community around
absolutely
has been torn apart.
Absolutely.
So what's the answer then?
Well, look, I think more rehab money for sure. People sort of fail to realize that these policies cost money. They're not, the drugs don't come from midair.
And a lot of money is being spent on those drugs.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to pay a pharmaceutical company like mine to produce the drugs that you are then giving away. You have to operate these centers. All of that costs money. And people forget that, if you're asking for one policy, and this is priority number one, policies number 2, 3, 4, and 5 probably aren't getting funded.
Is that one of the mistakes that everybody said, rushed to it and said, this is the way it is going to be, and not saying, there's so many different situations, we need different answers for different
100%.
situations?
100%. This was presented as the solution, and government ran with it, and sort of forgot about the fact that we need 5 other things on the go in order to help solve this problem.
And in your opinion, is rehab the best? Or one of the most important?
I think it's a toolbox, and you need to have lots of tools in the toolbox for a lot of different cases. For some people, frankly, jail is the right answer, right? Like, there are some people who are just criminals and who should go to jail for their crimes, right?
Right.
But for a lot of people, it's mental health issues. For a lot of people, it's addiction treatment. You need to have lots of tools in the toolbox. And yes, for a small number of people, maybe safe supply is an answer. But on a broad basis, it's clearly doing more harm than good.
And so, should it be abolished just off the top right now?
I don't know about abolish off the top. I mean, at the end of the day, people do rely on some of these centers, but they should be phased out in favor of different policies and different tools.
Bang on. Nick, thanks very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
To those of you who have subscribed and donated, a heartfelt thank you. You're keeping us on the air. If you're watching and you haven't, please try to do so, because 4 years ago, we started this show because there needed to be independent analysis. Now more than ever, with the Online Harms Act. Once that gets into law, it's been passed once by the House, there are going to be hundreds of bureaucrats censoring the news in Canada, censoring this show. We need to keep it on the air. Thanks for your support.